Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joey Galvez, one half of your host of Explain Yourself, and I want to let you guys know about a really cool book from our friend of the show, Eli Shockey. This one is called The Greylock, and it's a story where magic is a commodity. Potions are sold at corner stores. Orcs and dwarves earn a living in cubicles, not on the battlefields. But there are those who resist the house's magic's laws. Branded a criminal and forced to live as a wand for hire, there is a spell slinger they call the Greylock. Check this one out. You guys can pre-order issue 3 right now with code JAN241939, and make sure you guys are heading over to your favorite LCS and letting them know that you want Greylock number 3, and maybe pick up the first 2 issues. You could do that at the Scout web store. So make sure you guys are grabbing the Greylock number 3, JAN241939 at previewsworld.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is
Sesame and Carta. Don't you forget it.
Is Don't You Forget It part of the name?
No.
Oh,
Don't you forget it, or you're going to have to Encarta it to know my name. Because Encarta is a Microsoft software that pretty much predated Wikipedia. But it was really cool because it came on CD, and then there was like visuals and videos you could watch, and had audio files. It was pretty much Wikipedia before Wikipedia. It's pretty cool.
I've decided to change my name, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So what?
I am now Please Open the Door Wikipedia.
Please open the door, Wikipedia. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because, people say, like, open sesame, so I thought I'd...
Oh, yeah, okay, it makes sense. Yeah, okay.
I'm being very polite with my name. It's like, please open the door.
Yeah, please clap, or please laugh. Yeah.
And I asked the listeners to laugh at my bad joke.
Yeah, well,
please.
If you lack confidence, for a moment, you can always go with pleading. So that sometimes works out. Yeah.
That was my whole plan. If I ever, became a stand-up comic, I would just get on stage and beg people to laugh at my jokes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a little bit of vulnerability. So
yeah,
could work. Depends on how you approach it, but
let me try this out, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, welcome to the show. Please laugh at me.
Well, you first have to tell a joke.
Oh,
you can't just...
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, folks.
You gotta tell a joke. Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, folks, take my wife, please. No, that's an old one.
Old joke, yeah.
Yeah. It's probably...
Actually, that actually could be an interesting sort of disorienting type of humor where you just like offer jokes like without any context and just like run them down like that, and that's like your whole set.
Or I just tell punchlines.
Yeah, that's it. And like you don't break, like you don't like take a beat. Just like, do it.
Hey folks, to get to the other side, please laugh.
And then just say, please laugh for like next 5 minutes.
Please.
Like sort of Andy Kaufman type of thing, you know? And then it's like performance art. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Moon Knight, I think, though, right? And then we're just like...
Please laugh.
Please laugh at Moon Knight. No, don't
No,
laugh.
no. So, something not to laugh about. If you happen to hear cars in the background here, folks, there's a randomly. I didn't know anything about it, but the night we scheduled for recording, down the street from where I live, they're deciding to have this monthly car cruise that they have, where a bunch of cool cars go driving down the street and stuff, but a lot of them rev their engines and stuff. So a bunch of like classic cars and Jeeps and stuff like that. So, and motorcycles. So, good times.
And give it a little buzz, a nice little, a little bit something different.
And I might actually go watch it next month. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Didn't know about it until I went for a walk earlier and saw them. But anyways, so folks, Moon Knight.
Yeah. Yeah, Moon Knight. That's what we're all here for.
So, what were your thoughts here on episode 5 of the series?
I really liked it. My only problem is not from the episode itself, it's the pacing of where the show is going. So, like, it seemed like, for the first 3 episodes, we had a lot of momentum going on, and then, starting episode 4, not a lot really happened, which is fine, because, but then episode 5, and it's like, okay, so 2 episodes where really not a whole lot is happening, at least materially happening, and then now we only have 1 episode left to wrap everything up, and it seems to be a theme for all the MCU shows so far, and you think maybe at some point, hey, maybe try something different, because this formula isn't really working. A lot of people complain about it. You think maybe change course a little bit, but apparently they like doing it this way, I guess. I don't know, but
it's funny because you thought like number 4 and 5 didn't really have a lot happening, and I thought 3 didn't have anything happening.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We just disagree on that, because I don't know how you see it that way, because there's a lot of action and a lot of stuff going on.
Well, stuff going on doesn't mean that the story is going forward, and that was my issue with it.
I disagree. I think there was a lot of stuff going on in that, but
I don't think it moved the story forward as much as the first 2 episodes.
I don't know. I just have a different take on that, because they went to Egypt and they're trying to find the tomb and all that stuff. So all that set up for episode 4. But no matter, we just see things differently.
Well, no, it set it up for episode 4, but not a lot really happened.
Yeah. Again, we just have a different take. That's fine. But yeah.
But I do think that this episode revealed a lot, but a lot didn't happen because they're stuck in the afterlife. But as well as the last episode, which I agree with you on that aspect.
See, what I had hoped they had done was that they may have, do what they need to do with the first half of episode 4, and then start the asylum thing probably halfway through episode 4, and then halfway through episode 5, so that way we have an episode and a half to wrap everything up, instead of, because a lot of times it seems like the finale episode is shorter than a lot of the other episodes are in the series. So it's like, not only do you have to wrap everything up in 1 episode, you're also giving less time to do so. Unless this time it's going to be like an
you're going to
hour
hate
long.
what I've read somewhere.
Well, no, I don't want to hear anything, spoilers or whatever.
No, it's not spoilers.
Oh, okay.
All it is about the runtime.
Okay. Well, what is it, like 20 minutes or something? Or
it's supposed to be like 40-some minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know if they do this intentionally, or if they just get in a loop where they don't know what they're doing, or if they just like frustrating people. I don't know what the deal is with that, but yeah, it seems to be an ongoing problem.
But I think a lot is probably going to happen in the last episode, even though it's short. And so far, I've loved this show more than any of the other shows.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy.
So I think that we don't know what to expect, and I like that. Whereas after WandaVision, I started to kind of know what to expect in the finale.
Yeah, like with Falcon, we pretty much predicted everything that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And, I mean, almost down to like...
sometimes things happen that I predicted would happen, but I didn't like that they happened too. Like, I didn't like the ending of Loki.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's hard to say. I did like Hawkeye a lot, so.
Yeah, Hawkeye was good, but that
Mhm.
also had a few problems with pacing as well.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I just don't
that's like
understand
we said.
how
With the problem with it is I mean, no matter what episode it is, even if we don't agree on which ones are the filler episodes, it feels like a lot of this could almost have been done in a 3 hour movie
yeah.
as opposed
So that's what
to
my thing
a
is.
6 episode story arc.
Yeah, see, I don't think episode 4 and 5 are filler episodes. I just think that if you're gonna do 2 episodes where it's more of like a mental journey as opposed to anything that's going on physically, you should probably at least have 7 episodes instead of trying to wrap everything up into one. That's my main thing. Like, I don't know why the MCU is so focused on a number of 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Like, why can't you make it 8 or
Well,
7 or whatever?
WandaVision had 8.
Yeah, but those were shorter episodes though too, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, some of the series has had 8, so it's hard to say.
What If had, I think What If had 8 or 9,
Yeah.
but they were shorter episodes as well, like sometimes 20, 28 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. These episodes have largely been at least 50 minutes, counting the credits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have no problem with episode 4 and 5 not like having too much action in it. It's just like if you have 2 whole episodes like that, and like if you say episode 3 was also, so that's like 3 episodes with really like a lot of build up, but then you gotta make it all come together with just 1 episode. Like, I don't know, it just
And we'll see. Who knows what they'll do? Maybe they're going to give this one the second
I just
season.
don't want to be upset. I don't want to be disappointed because
Yeah.
this is my favorite show so far. And
I think the best thing is just like we should just go in with no expectations, and that's what I'm planning to do. So good or bad expectations, because if you go in a negative attitude, you're probably gonna not like it. But
yeah.
anyways, so what happens in this episode?
So they they meet the Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of like fertility, children, also sort of like guidance, like into the afterlife. And we kind of go back and forth between the asylum and what's going on with her. So like Mark, he's back, talking to Dr. Harrow again, and Dr. Harrow's like telling him that he's like, I think his words were, he's violently vacillating between like nonsense and sense, like he can't get a hold on like what's actually happening, because he's like being triggered when he's trying to relive like a certain moment of his past or whatever. But then we go back to what's actually going on with the hippopotamus. So then we eventually learn that the asylum is actually the illusion, and what's really going on is the hippopotamus goddess, because Mark, is insane clinically. I'm not saying that as like an insult. I mean, just like the word itself, he's insane. Like, and so in his mind, that was like, I guess, just sort of comfort space in a weird way, I guess. Where he's talking to Dr. Harrow, which is again is interesting too, because so it's like in his fantasy, Arthur Harrow is a psychiatrist. So like like to me that almost kind of implies that he sort of trusts him or agrees with him a little bit about what
I took it as as a different way, where he cast the psychiatrist as the villain.
Oh, okay.
Because he's afraid of opening himself up.
Oh, okay.
So, because he puts on these other identities to block himself, from pain and other things, and he doesn't want to reveal his pains.
Right.
And so, in that way, you cast somebody who's villainous in your life in the role of the psychiatrist or the therapist in the afterlife.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. I mean, Taweret, she's explained to them that there's pretty much like an infinite plane of consciousness, pretty much what we've been sort of building up in phase 4 of the Marvel movies, getting into a lot of spiritual, metaphysical things, stuff like that. And she basically says that they need to have their hearts balanced on a scale, with like a feather, and they're supposed to, if they can't get them, if they can't get the scale to stop moving, then the duat, which is basically like the sand, like you just get thrown overboard and you get frozen in sand, and that's pretty much your your afterlife is just being stuck there, I guess, permanently. And and so they have to like basically reveal to each other what they're hiding from each other, I guess, in order to like get a better understanding of each other, which mainly is Mark hiding stuff from Steven, because Steven doesn't really have like a secret, type of life. He's more of an open book, and we find out why, or we've already assumed why pretty much throughout the whole show. And so like we find out eventually that Mark had a younger brother named Randall, who his mother nicknamed Roro, and they were like having like a cookout or whatever, and Randall was drawing a picture of a fish with one fin on it, so it kind of goes back to like Gus the fish, from the first episode or two.
Yeah.
And they were gonna, go to the cave that they went. They like to go to a cave. Just another interesting thing, because caves often resemble like symbolism, like hiding yourself and that kind of thing. So that's interesting. And then, his mom, Mark's mom. I mean, I watched this a few times, right? So it seems like Mark's mom favored Randall a little bit over Mark, because she had a cute little nickname for him, but didn't have a nickname for Mark. When she was asking if they were hungry, she asked Roro first if he was hungry. So it seems like she already kind of had a sort of favoritism already going on between her two children. So they go off into the cave. Steven,
before they go into the cave, though,
mm-hmm.
An interesting thing happened where Mark steps on what looks like the dead skeleton of like a hummingbird or something.
Oh yeah, I think it was Steven. No, that was.
That's well, whichever one it was at the time, because this was actually before he created Steven. He was pretending to be Steven.
No, I know, but I mean, Steven was following the memory though.
Oh, and he stepped on it. Anyways, sorry, but yeah, no,
right.
he stepped on it, and they noticed it as they went by. I think they might have all stepped on it as they went through.
Oh, okay.
But it was very reminiscent of the way that Mark and Steven see Khonshu.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking it kind of almost implies that Khonshu's been there the whole time.
Yeah, I mean there are some of the comic book series, because there's different series of Moon Knight that have to tell different stories, and there is a series where Khonshu basically showed up in his life when he was just like a small child, like 8 years old or whatever, and pretty much that was kind of like when he was first experiencing issues with DID. So Khonshu was like already at that time just kind of manipulating him, sort of like guiding him to become a mercenary and eventually claim him at a certain time to be his next avatar, which you think that seems like a lot of work and a lot of years to be doing something like that. But when you're a god who's thousands or millions of years old, that's really not that lot of time. So it's interesting. We'll see if that's actually what was going on. Probably, I'm thinking that might be what's going on, because, and like you mentioned too, like his mom may have had some kind of DID or mental health issues too, just because of like how she. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So like Steven, he jumps through the memory before Mark can get to it. So Mark's kind of locked out, of that memory right there. So it's just Steven. And he finds out that it was raining. They're kind of playing the game, basically reenacting the TV show that they were playing at the end of season 4, the Tomb Buster show. They're like reenacting like scenes from that show as they're going into the cave, kind of pretending to be the characters from that show. Like that's why they were going into the cave is kind of like sort of exploration kind of thing. And if you think about it too, the cave actually in the TV show looked very similar a little bit to the actual cave that they're going into a little bit. And it's interesting too because in the TV show they find a skeleton, so that's interesting. But so basically Randall drowns, or Rolo drowns because the water is rising too fast, and Mark couldn't save him. So then they go to the next memory, and it's the Shiva, which is a Jewish period of mourning. I believe is 7 days of just that's all you do, just mourn. You don't do anything else. Just pretty much just sit down and just with a bunch of people and just mourn and basically reminisce really for like a whole week. And his mom, basically just blames Mark for everything. Just almost just turns into like a completely different person and like super angry and stuff. But then at the same time, because you mentioned before that maybe she had DID, and I was starting after I watched it a few more times, it really did seem like it wasn't just like anger. I mean, like her tone and facial expressions almost seemed like it was like a different person.
And the other thing too, at one point when when she is about to come into his room and like beat him, he says, "That's not my mom. That's not my mom. That's not my mom."
Right. Yeah.
So it's either him trying to hide the fact that she is that monster,
right,
or he's saying that she is two identities.
Well, that's
it could be any kind of mental illness too. I mean, it could be bipolar disorder or something of that nature too.
Yeah, it could have been some kind of anything like that. But like, but she just did have a different kind of look about her, like just like facial expression. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to, I mean, obviously you need to, we can't diagnose people based on the TV show, but like,
yeah, especially fictional characters who aren't really.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're all such great actors in this show. So like, but yeah, so Mark pulls him away pretty much right at that moment, and which kind of confused me because he turns into Steven right before she's gonna start beating him. So then, like, did that immediately turn back to Mark, like right before that happened, or what? Because like he still had like the British accent right before she took the belt and was about to hit him. But
see, my theory is that he actually turned into the third identity.
Oh, the Jake guy, or
whatever. That we have yet to completely meet in this, because I think that we have met him several times in the show.
Yeah, because I was watching Screen Crush and stuff, and like when he was in, Dr. Harrow's office, his accent kind of became like a more of like a New York or Boston-y kind of.
Well, it was kind of a Chicago accent, like a deeper Chicago accent than
and he was just acting different too than Mark. Didn't really act like Mark at all. Much more brazen, less self-discipline. Because Mark, his violence always has like a purpose to it. He's very controlled, where this guy is very much more just like unhinged. Is kind of just looking for a fight basically, and there's been some theories too I've been reading and hearing about that perhaps Khonshu really was actually more after this guy, not Mark. But since Mark is sort of like a little bit easier to control, then it kind of settled for him. But he really
plus there, Jake. I think a lot of the more brutal killings and the killings that make no sense are Jake. Yeah. Like for example, when they were killing those guys on that rooftop a couple episodes ago, and Steven says, "What'd you do?" And Mark's like, "I didn't do it," So it's like,
right,
yeah,
because when he was Mark, he just like slapped one of the guys across the face when he had him like in his collars or whatever, just knocked him down basically, just incapacitated him, so he wasn't really looking to kill anyone, because like with Khonshu, he's only supposed to kill like really really super bad people, like he's not supposed to kill people that he wants to get information out of, that kind of thing. That's more of like a just
It's like it's like early Arrow compared to later Arrow in the TV series, where when he first started out, he would kill anybody, almost, with reason. But then eventually he stopped killing, and that's kind of like, I think, the difference between Jake and Mark.
Yeah, definitely. So, so we go through a lot of memories like this. Like we go through a room. This is before the cave incident, but we find a whole room of all the people that Mark has killed as Moon Knight, and they're all just sitting there, dead or supposedly dead in the cafeteria of the asylum. And there's 50 of them at least, or something like that. A lot of people. I was surprised. I figured there'd be even more people that he's killed, but maybe it wasn't all of them in the room. But just really interesting episode. It's hard to kind of talk about just because of the layers of it all. Because not a lot happened physically in it, but there's just so much symbolism, going on mentally, spiritually, physically. Because we got the whole thing with the broken family thing going on. When his brother died, his mom just became an abusive, terrible person, and then
she didn't want to celebrate birthdays with him.
Yeah, or if she did, whenever she was alone with him, when his dad would leave, she would say horrible things to him, so that out of earshot of her dad.
She was a piece of shit to him.
She was a terrible person, saying oh well, you were always jealous of him ever since he was born, and I should have known that you would have done something like this. You purposely killed his brother. Really?
Yeah.
But then it goes back again to the whole idea of projection, where I think she always favored Randall over him in the first place. So she's just projecting the fact that if one of her sons were to die, she would rather have been Mark than Randall, which that shows her own issues, right there. And because,
it's the whole Johnny Cash situation, where because the same exact thing. It almost is exactly like what happened with Johnny Cash.
Yeah, it is.
Where but it was his dad, not his mom.
Mm-hmm.
But his dad always blamed him for his brother's death, and basically said, "Why couldn't it be the other son?" sort of thing.
Yeah, and then they did the whole thing in Walk Hard as well, where the wrong son died. That whole dumb song. Yeah, it's pretty much what it is, and because I watched it 3 times, because I've been trying to watch all of them at least 3 times just to get a better idea of what's going on, and I noticed after the 3rd viewing that she didn't have a nickname for Mark; it was just Mark. But Roro, that was Randall. She offered him food first. Mark kind of made a little joke about the fish she was drawing, and she's like, "Oh, be nice to your brother." It wasn't even a bad joke. He wasn't really making fun of him. Really, it was just kind of teasing him very lightly. It wasn't
it wasn't overt either, but it was subtle things that she did. Yeah.
Yeah, there were subtle little things like that, and then so Steven though has all these memories though of his mom being nice. So I'm trying to figure out, did Mark create fake memories for Steven, or did she actually or did she know that Mark had DID and would treat Steven well when he was in Steven mode, but then when he was in Mark mode, she would just go back to being a piece of shit to him? I don't know.
I hope we get that revealed, but I don't know if we will. with the time we have left, but I like your theory that it was basically she was nice to Steven because he would become Steven as a way to protect Mark.
Right.
Because she didn't blame Steven for Roro's death, she blamed Mark.
Yeah, exactly. So it's did they both know that he had this mental disorder, both of his parents, or we didn't really?
I'm thinking they might have, because we don't know when it started. I mean, we do know when it started, but when he was talking, when it got so obvious that it was starting, and I have a feeling that his parents knew about it, and that was probably what it was. Is she probably, in a way, favored Steven over Mark, the way she did Randall over Mark?
Yeah, because Steven kind of reminds me of Randall. It's almost like he took on the personality of Randall as Steven, essentially. So Steven basically just became a placeholder for Randall, kind of, in a way. with a British accent because of the TV show.
Yeah,
that we watched.
TV show or movie. I'm not really clear on what that was.
Yeah, it
so.
could have been a movie.
Yeah.
Because it said "Have no fear, Stephen Grant is here." That was like the main
Yeah.
character, and like his
In the
sidekick
comic
was-
books, where that where he has that like hung up on his wall, like not exactly. I mean, because it's a drawing compared to the reality, but he has like an Indiana Jones poster instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
like,
I mean, obviously it's a Indiana Jones wannabe with a British accent. I mean, he's not British in the comics. Steven's not British, so.
right, he's just American. Because that's the other thing too is like they had to have known. Yeah, that just buttresses your theory even better. Because like, why would he suddenly have a British accent when he lived in America?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that.
And
And his dad was like, an enabler.
I've read some interviews with Oscar Isaac, and he said he tried to make sure that he got it right enough, but was okay if he screwed up sometimes because he knew he was an American pretending to be British.
Okay.
So he wanted to have it believable for the audience that he was British, but if he screwed up, he didn't really care that much because he knew the character wasn't British.
Well, yeah, okay. See, that makes sense. That's a good way out of that.
And it was his idea to make the character British.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of cool.
Because they said they were going to be they were going to have it taking place in London, and he says, "Is Stephen character going to be British?" And they didn't want him to be British at first, and then he was supposed to have like a New York accent or something, and then they were like, "No, yeah," and they're like, "No, they just wanted it to take place in Britain as opposed to New York, where all the other MCU things tend to take place."
Yeah, they do. A lot of them do.
Yeah. Anyway,
so,
do you want to take a break really quick before we get to more into this?
Yeah, sure.
Before we go to the break really quick though, my friend of our show, Justin, is a military reenactor, and they have a big show coming up in the Findlay, Ohio area. If you're interested, if you like some good action type stuff, it's probably fun to watch. It's the big 35th annual Armed Forces Day celebration with a Findlay military show. It's May 19th through the 22nd. You can find more information at www.findlaymilitaryShow.org. So, check it out. It might be a fun thing if you happen to be in the Northwest Ohio area, where we're located. So, yeah. Alrighty, we'll be right back.
No Outlet Live.
Hey, I'm Jay Remy, host of No Outlet Live. If you're in a podcast that explore any and everything, check us out. We stream anywhere you listen or watch podcasts, or just type No Outlet Live, one word, in your Google search bar to find the show. Live Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook. No Outlet Live, your road to boredom ends here. Do you like Tessa? Do you think this will be a date that can last?
Well, she's not very articulate.
And we are back. Okay, so, I mean, one of the things that I think is it's kind of tragic because I do believe that the way that Mark's mom treated him, her constant abuse and everything, basically led Mark to becoming a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was violent, created violence in him,
Mm-hmm.
And like Mark, we learned in here that he did not kill the archaeologists. It was the Bushman that was with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we also learned through this thing that Mark's partner tried to kill him. And he's dying, and he's at the foot of the statue of Khonshu. And Khonshu basically saves his life then.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Mark was about to, like, pull the trigger on himself.
Mm-hmm.
And go out all Kurt Cobain style. Too soon?
Yeah, we go too soon, about 30 years too soon.
Okay,
But,
yeah, all right.
because, why did he go all the way down to the statue of Khonshu to kill himself when he could have just done it anywhere? Was it like a weird source of comfort for him? Which then
I think he was
kind
just
of,
trying to find somewhere to hide.
maybe okay.
Yeah, that's my guess.
A dark place, maybe.
Yeah.
But too, if we're going back to the theory that Khonshu may have been, because Steven actually says
It could all be predestined. Yeah.
Yeah, because Steven says says that tricky old vulture or whatever. Because Steven does not like Khonshu at all. Does not trust him at all.
No.
And I mean, Mark doesn't trust him, but he sort of does at the same time. Where Steven's just like, I don't like this guy at all. Like he's not good news, And he said, he's been manipulating you from the start. Which in the particular scene, we're led to believe the start of his mission, but he could have been literally from the start, like of his life, or when he started experiencing, mental health issues.
And it's interesting here too because Mark allows Steven to see this memory, as well as all these other kind of hurtful memories. But there's one that he won't let him see at first.
Oh yes,
he keeps him hidden. He's trying to protect him from the fact that Mommy's dead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he. So basically, when he keeps trying to do that, he like basically keeps freaking out and ending up back in Harrow's office.
Right. Yeah. Harold's like telling him, like you zapped out again or whatever. Yeah.
So it's hard to know what's reality and what's not.
Right, and that's sort of Mark's sort of like reassurance is like going back into the psychiatrist's office.
Yeah, it's like he's creating that situation to protect himself, like he does his DID.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, while he's in the office with Harrow, though, he does explain to him that he's been making progress, and that he hopes Mark will allow Steven to know the truth of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what we find out is that, his mother was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we find out that, Steven was basically created because of this, and then we also find out later on that the mother died, and the memory that he wouldn't let see was him standing outside the house during her Shiva.
Right, and drinking, which again that could have been Jake as well.
Yeah, because Jake, I think every time he drinks, it's Jake.
I think it does seem like his. So he was like alternating between Mark and Jake essentially at the Shiva. Or outside of it, the window or whatever.
Mark found it too painful to, go inside.
Right. I mean, I probably wouldn't even shown up at all if it was me, to be honest. But he probably did it for his dad, even though his dad was kind of pretty much at fault for the whole thing as well in his own way.
And I think that his mom dying is where he ended up allowing Steven to control the body more.
Yeah, because that's what he said. That's when their lives started to kind of meld into each other more. Because before that, they were just like, I guess, completely separate. Like they had no idea that they existed, basically separate. Well, Mark knew, but Steven didn't know that the other person existed. So,
and this whole time, by the way, I mean, I know we're trying to balance these scales, so.
Yeah, see, all this, exactly. All this is going on to balance the scales, because if they don't balance, they're both going to get thrown overboard anyway. So they pretty much.
And it's interesting how their hearts, when she pulled them out of chest, look like these like marbles or something, like these marbles.
They're like white. Yeah.
I mean, that might just be because it's Disney Plus and they don't want to be too bloody. But
Yeah, it could have been symbolic too, like
Yeah.
crystals, or whatever. But also too, the other interesting thing. I know we're kind of like skipping through a lot of different like chronological thing here, but like doesn't really matter because this show is really not chronological. But
yeah, and hopefully if you're listening to this, you've watched it. If you haven't, I don't know what's wrong with you.
right, exactly. Why would you listen to us?
But please laugh at me.
Please laugh. Please
laugh.
laugh.
Please laugh.
Yeah,
Not at
but,
me, actually, with me. I don't want to be laughed at.
Well, no, laugh with you. Yeah. But one of the things that got me, I just remembered, was when Tolerette, was first talking to them, she was saying that it's been a long time since anyone has crossed through. So what I'm thinking is, why was no one else, like, do you have to like believe in the Egyptian gods to go through that version of the afterlife? Like, because like to me, like most religions pretty much teach, like, whether you believe it or not, like their version of heaven or hell is just like universally true. Like, it's not whether or not you believe it is, and then therefore you go to one of those places or states of being or whatever.
And it's like I'm trying to figure out how many different versions of the afterlife are there
right
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Because she said it's been a long time since anyone has crossed through her. So how many thousands of years have she's just been like waiting for someone to do this? I mean, just I don't.
I mean, because we've kind of seen the afterlife when it comes to, like when somebody violates time in Loki. We see the different afterlife when it comes to like Asgard. And
like in Black Panther as well, the ancestral plane.
Yeah, so there's been different types of the afterlife within this same universe. So it's like, are they all true? Are they,
Yeah, are they all, or do you have to just believe in some and then that's the one you go to? Like, kind of like, if you're like, Thor, Odin, you're not going to go to the Egyptian underworld. You're going to go to the Nordic one or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So maybe it's just because of the fact that, then again, though, there's people to this day who still believe in the old Egyptian gods and stuff. So it's not Mark, like, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know why none of them would ever pass through.
So it's still open for business then, right? Because you got some customers.
Yeah, exactly. But, and she's such a very nice goddess, though.
Yeah, it's just so funny. You got that cute little voice. Yeah.
I mean, she is so pure, but at the same time, she's like the rules are the rules. Like, I can't help you if if it doesn't work out. Like, like if we, but we do find that it does look at like at some point that Arthur Harrow and his followers did resurrect Ammit because she's seeing people being prematurely judged, which is what Ammit is supposed to be doing. So like that's probably actually happening right now, like a sort of Thanos type of situation is going on, currently on Earth.
I have this wild theory here.
Oh yeah.
I think when we find out the judge that he raised, it's actually going to be Judge Judy. And
okay.
I'm joking.
She is kind of firm though and strict.
Yeah.
So so I don't know. It could be Judge Ammit Judy or something like that.
That'd be funny if they hired her to play the character.
Yeah, it would have been actually hilarious.
Yeah.
They did. We don't know yet. We haven't heard her voice.
No.
But that would be like the greatest reveal ever, though, if it was actually Judge Judy doing the voice of Ammit. And again, purple.
Yeah.
That's that color. Purple is usually resembles power and or spiritual, metaphysical stuff. Kind of really depends on how it's being used, kind of. But they tend to. Well, I don't know. They seem more violet than purple to me with Ammit. I don't know, but maybe not. Maybe it's like a lighter purple than like the Power Stone would be. But so maybe that kind of takes more of a mystical color as opposed.
It was deep purple.
Purple,
the band.
There you go.
Yeah,
that would be a good reveal right there if Ammit was the band Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Like not just like a member of the band, like the band itself, Deep Purple.
With Judge Judy as their new lead singer.
Judy is their lead singer. Yes. What the hell? God, there's so much here. So like, all right. So we do eventually find the Shiva or the Shiva, Steven sees everything that's going on. Um, Mark breaks down. He takes his yarmulke off and starts pounding it into the ground. And he apologizes to the hat, but then he also is apologizing basically to Randall for quote letting him die.
Yeah.
And then we see his eyes go back into the back of his head, and then he becomes Steven. And Steven has no idea where he's going, and then he immediately picks up the phone to call his mom, even though he was literally just standing across the house from where his mom was. And he's basically telling her he's lost again. He has no idea where he's at.
So at least we know that, timeline-wise, it wasn't like his memories reset each time or anything, so we do know that he's continuing his life and didn't know yet that his mom was dead or whatever,
Right. But my whole thing, though, is, this was right where their house was, though.
Mm-hmm.
So Steven wouldn't remember where they lived? Like, I don't really get that.
Well, I don't think he probably ever knew where they lived. It might have just been...
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, he just came out when he needed protecting. He didn't know details because it wasn't until he was able to take over the body more that after his mom died that he ended up creating a life of his own.
Oh, okay, I see. I got you. All right.
Because he was just there as kind of like he was like a fire extinguisher. He was only there if you needed him. But now he's more like a shelter that you can hide in. He's there all the time.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So he calls her again on voicemail because that's the other thing. He only ever communicates by voicemail because she's not alive, and that's why he's always doing that. And then we do eventually get Steven in Dr. Harrow's office, and then there's a really sad scene where he's like, "All right, well, I'll just go and call your mom for you," and he's like, "No, please don't do that." He's like, "Why? Just take a second." He's like, "Just don't. She doesn't like to be bothered. She screens her calls because he knows like at this point that there's no one going to be on the other end of the line." And that was a really sad scene. And then sorry if I'm taking up all the time.
Oh no, that's fine. Basically, I think what else ends up happening here, if you don't mind me saying, basically the so they need the scales to balance here, and the scale is nearly balanced, but something else is going wrong, and Towereat notices people are dying at an alarming rate, which we talked about before, and that Harrow's probably behind this. Maybe Ahmed is too, but Mark and Steven need to return home to stop him, but they're still dead. So she's trying to get them back to Earth, basically.
Right.
But so we have these like zombie type creatures coming up on the side of the boat from the sand, trying to kill Mark and Steven. And they end up getting Steven pulled into the sand himself, and he starts to turn to sand.
Yeah, because Mark wasn't fighting back. Mark pretty much like wanted to die, it looks like, and Steven was pretty much doing most of the fighting. And then that's when he pretty much saves Mark by jumping at one of the zombie guys, and then they both fell off the boat. And then now it's just Mark. I really hope that they don't just completely kill Steven off.
I don't think they will.
Because I'll end up voting down the entire show if that happens. I'll just become my favorite MCU show to my least favorite.
So then we have an issue where then after that happens, things become balanced, and Mark is sent off to the field of reeds, and he's kind of in this new paradise, and he's admiring where he is, and we have credits.
Yeah, and they're playing a Spanish song. I think it has something to do with like God and stuff like that. And I forgot the translation, but it had something to do with like going to heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's in quote heaven, which doesn't really seem like a great heaven to me if you're just in the field of reeds. I mean, that's no big deal. You get bored with that pretty quick. But like, I guess it's better than being like in a dark hellscape. But like, you know,
And if you're hungry, you can eat the reeds. I guess I don't know.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think the field of reeds probably takes you into a different place.
Yeah, I'm
maybe.
sure that's probably the gateway to where you're going, not to.
Yeah, probably. So then now next episode's probably going to be a temptation for him to just stay there or go back to Khonshu, which tortured him basically, and then
Yeah.
you know, but he's probably gonna go back because he wants to save the world from like a second Thanos type of deal, which again kind of pisses me off a little. I mean, it's a great show, but it's like it just kind of reminds me of Thanos, but on a lesser scale, because it's like that's my whole problem with like when you introduce someone like Thanos, who like literally eliminated half the universe. How do you like go up from that? Because now we have an Egyptian goddess who just wants to kill like a whole bunch of people in one world, as opposed to Thanos who wants to do that throughout the entire universe.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like comparing Hitler to Charles Manson. They're both bad.
Yeah, it's like,
but
it's
yeah.
So that's like my only kind of gripe with that. Even with like the whole Amit story, it's like, well, who knows? Maybe it's more because because they did talk about all the intersectional, so maybe Amit's doing this throughout the multiverse, not just this universe, which is what Thanos did. So who knows? She could be doing it much more.
Or it doesn't matter. It's just a bad thing that they're doing. It doesn't matter if you're, stealing $1 from someone that needs it as opposed to stealing $1 million from somebody else that needs it. You're still.
It's kind of like the Ra's al Ghul mentality.
Yeah.
Like each crime is equally bad and should be equally punished, which is absolutely insane. But
yeah.
But
what I'm getting at is it just because it's a lesser crime doesn't mean it's not bad. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course not. I mean,
yeah.
If she's gonna kill like hundreds, millions of people or something like that, which again is gonna further completely fuck up the world's psychology because like the world in the MCU is going through a lot of just
and like I ask in a lot of these things, if this is happening on Earth, where are the Avengers?
Well, aren't they mostly disbanded at this point? I mean,
yeah, but still, if bad things are happening, wouldn't you stand up and?
Yeah, but there's only like one of them left, I think.
Well, not even just them. I'm just saying, like any of our heroes that we've met in the MCU.
Well, they might not even know what's going on at this point. That's the other thing too. I mean, we don't. All we know is.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying that's. I mean, I don't really even need an explanation because this just happens all the time whenever you have a connected universe, like on the Arrowverse or something, where you'll have something bad going on in Central City, and you're wondering why people are hanging out in Metropolis and not coming over to help or whatever, Right.
Well, it's because they got their own bad guys in those shows that they're dealing with too, and then you got. I don't know.
But they always ask like everything's the end of the world, and you're just like, okay, if it's really the end of the world, it's gonna affect everybody. But
yeah, I mean, because you got Spider-Man, he's probably dealing with his shit still right now.
And so is Doctor Strange and everybody. Yeah, but anyways,
So is it going, what's that?
But anyways, that's just the way it goes in these type of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. You could do as much as you can to connect everything together, but it becomes really complicated to do everything.
Yeah.
Like that.
Anyways, any other final thoughts on this episode here?
No, not really. Just be nice to people if you're a parent. Don't be mean to one of your kids. Just because something bad happened and all that jazz.
Yeah. Make sure you sing a lot of jazz.
If you like jazz.
Or if you don't, you can use it to punish people.
If you don't like jazz, there's going to be a problem, yes. Because jazz is really cool. Even Kenny G's not bad if you think about it. I mean, his music's kind of straightforward, but he's a really good saxophone player.
Indeed.
Speaking of which, he was in a music video of Katy Perry back like in 2011, playing the saxophone during the music video.
Interesting.
Well, he didn't actually record the saxophone solo on the record, but he was in the music video pretending to play it, which I'm not sure why they didn't just bring him in to record it, but whatever. And
Yeah.
whatever, that's what they did. And then
I feel bad for the guy that actually recorded it.
Yeah, well, because the solo really wasn't that complex anyway, so it wouldn't make any sense to bring like a world-renowned saxophonist to record like a simple solo, so
Yeah.
so they probably just had someone from the studio do it. But that was pretty fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you don't like jazz, Ahmet's probably going to kill you.
Yes.
Because Ahmet's a really big fan of jazz, so she's even got her own jazz band. It's called Ahmet and the Destroyers, and it's kind of like a bebop, kind of cool jazz sort of hybrid style. Really interesting.
That's cool. So, and speaking
Yeah.
of bad parenting too, I've been listening to the latest series on Behind the Bastards, which I would recommend people to listen to, about John Wayne. And his mom reminds me a lot of the mom in the show.
Oh wow!
She hated him.
Oh jeez.
I mean, first off, she named him Marion. His John Wayne's real name is Marion. His birth name was Marion Frederick Morrison.
Okay.
And she decided when she had another child after him that she favored, that she was going to steal Marion's middle name and give it to the kid as his first name.
What?
And then changed his middle name legally to Mitchell.
Okay.
That's how much she didn't like him. And then she abused him and used to beat him and shit. And yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's an interesting little series that explains why John Wayne became John Wayne.
Yeah, he was kind of gruff and stuff too, and
He was a hypocritical piece of shit. But anyways, so
he had violent tendencies as well.
Oh,
so,
yeah. He beat his wife.
Abuse tends to manifest in more abuse. So
yeah. But it was just kind of interesting that I watched this episode of Moon Knight right as I'm listening to that, and I'm like, wow, it's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Anyways, but be nice to each other, people. Yes.
Yeah.
Be good. Wear a condom.
Sure.
If you need to.
Yeah.
Wear clothes.
I mean, that's kind of a given, but yeah.
Check out our Facebook and our TikTok and our Instagram and our
Grams
and our Twits. Check out the Twitter.
Yep.
I was going to buy it, but I couldn't afford it to buy Twitter.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't have $44 billion.
Yeah, nobody would lend me any money.
Yeah. Well, that's a big loan to ask for though. So.
But hey, maybe I can buy Friendster.
Is Friendster still around? You probably get that for about $1,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Not sure what you could do with it. But,
I think I could get that for like a cheeseburger and a large fry. But anyways, check out that. Check out our Patreon. Check out our TeePublic and buy some shirts. Help support the show.
Get some shirts on.
Yeah, and wear them. That'll help you with the wearing of clothing. And until next time, folks. I love you. Bye-bye.
Oh.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.